Well, thank you. I enjoy doing things like this, and I'm going to talk about HR trends, which there are a lot of going on right now. And I don't think I can make you all experts, but I think I could at least tell you where some of the hot spots are. So when you're engaging with your clients and if you see situations, at least you know where to go to get some answers. In the last year, about 50 new HR laws. A lot of them are driven by states and not federal, even though we did have a federal Fair Labor Standards Act change at the beginning of this year. There's still a lot going on with people not understanding I-9s and e-verification. Tremendous problems with 1099s and other areas that we will concentrate on. And I won't be able to not have a conversation on HR trends without talking about COVID a little bit and some of the really offsprings of what's going on after the March 16th forward problems inside of companies with their employees. First is the Fair Labor Standards Act. The federal government made a change a couple of years ago, and at the last hour, they pulled that, saying that they're going to reevaluate it, relook at it. And finally, on January 1st of 2020, the new Federal Labor Standards Act finally got changed, something that's sat around for 30 plus years without any changes at all in it. And now that means that any exempt employee, classified as an exempt employee, like they can't get an hour, they don't get an hourly rate, they don't get overtime, all of that, you must earn $35,568. If you don't earn that amount, literally you have to move them to a non-exempt employee. That figure is probably not too bad in professional services companies, but boy, did we see a lot of change needed in like nonprofit organizations. And nonprofits thought they were exempt from this rule, but they're not. The other little thing that a lot of people just don't understand is of that 35,568, 10% of it could count as bonuses. So that means actually you could pay somebody $32,011 and still have an exempt employee. However, that bonus has to be paid minimally per quarter. It can't be an annual basis bonus. So a lot of little tricks in that law, but once you know that that you have a problem, you got to do something about it, because if you don't, an employee will complain, and then they'll come and do an audit, and then you're going to be in worse shape, because I've seen companies that one person goes to the Department of Labor, that department then does an audit on you, and all of a sudden they're spending $500,000 to fix their problem. So what do? You actually have to have a job description on every person to really define what they do, because they have to meet 5 qualifying tests. What are the 5? Administrative, executive, professional, computer, or outside sales. And talking about outside sales, that's probably where most of the faults come. People that just sit on a telephone, make calls all day, they're not outside sales, they're an inside salesperson. And we have a lot of companies classifying those people as exempt employees, but they are non-exempt. And the federal government will jump all over that and hit you with fines and penalties on it as well. So it is pretty ugly when you get an audit. So keep yourself clean, have your company stay clean in that, so that you don't get these big penalties. It's all it takes is that one irate employee, that lays saying, hey, I should have gotten all this overtime. I work 15 hours extra a week, and all the other companies I worked for, I was a non-exempt. and this company classified me as an exempt person, and they go blow the whistle, and that's how it all happens usually. The I-9 immigration, I can't tell you. We deal with a lot of small companies, and taking over a company that's 30, 40 employees and pulling their files and getting that and auditing it, finding out that there's probably only 2 employees that have an I-9 completed properly. Some of them say I have I-9s for everyone. Barry's on this call. It's kind of funny. We went into a company once, 52 employees, and that CFO said, "You're going to see our I-9s are perfect. We have an I-9 for everyone." And lo and behold, they had an I-9 for everyone. There was an I-9 in everybody's file, but it was completely blank, empty, not one piece of ink on it. So people still don't understand it. And the federal government has increased the fines. It used to be $111 an error, and there's 11 errors possible on an I-9. They moved it up to $440. So you could be looking at $4,400 per I-9 not being done properly. You multiply that by the amount of employees you have and past employees for the last 3 years, and fines and penalties, which is usually double or triple those fines. You could be sitting at several $100,000 worth of fines very, very fast for just doing or not knowing that you're supposed to be doing I-9s properly. So we can't tell you how many companies call us up saying, "Hey, I just got this letter from Department of Labor, and they told me they're coming in 3 days to audit my I-9s. Is that proper?" And it's like, yep, that's exactly what they do. And they randomly send about 3,000 companies that notice every quarter. And that's where also companies get in trouble with their I-9s. EVerify. A lot of companies get in trouble because they don't know they have to E-Verify. There's several states, I have them listed here, who require I-9s, and the requirements are a little different in each state. Give you a little idea. In Georgia, 11 or more employees, you must do E-Verify. If you're doing government business, you probably are required to do E-Verification. So those government contracts that you signed and probably signed a statement, or there's a statement inside that contract that said you'll E-Verify, or you don't even know you did it. And in the M&A business, I can't tell you how many times we get involved in helping a company on an M&A, and the first thing we ask is, are there any federal contracts? So we know if we have to meet OFCCP guidelines or not. And they all sit there, and after they spent 3 to 4 months in the due diligence, they don't even know that answer, which I find very interesting. But they don't worry about that kind of stuff until HR gets involved and starts making sure they're in compliance with things. Also, multi-company IDs are very important. There's a lot of companies with different federal ID numbers and hire people inside of those federal entities. However, they only have one E-Verify company set up, so they E-Verify people all in that one company and not in the company they're getting paid at. So the federal government actually does audits, and they see when people aren't E-Verified, but yet they have X amount of people on their payroll. And what do you think that happens after that? Nice little audit comes down your way. And again, fines and penalties for that is increasing. About 3 years ago, the ICE has actually increased the fines. And you could see on this chart that some of those fines have increased anywhere between 2 and 3 times what they were. So a little important. 1099s. I kind of like skipped over something here. 1099s is another problem that we're seeing more and more of. We have seen the states look at their 1040s of companies and see a whole bunch of contract labor people on their expenses. And they come and audit that company looking to see if those are valid 1099s, or are you not paying taxes and taxes properly. And where you're really getting the fault is these 1099s will blow the whistle, and the way they blow the whistle usually is going to the unemployment and say, hey, the company just let me go. I'm not working for them anymore. So the Department of Labor goes and looks at that person's social security number in the system, and inside that company they said they were working for, to find out that they're not on the payroll. So that triggers an audit. What happens with the audit? They come back and say, well, we want to look at all your 1099s, and usually they're not 1099s, they're employees, they're acting as employees. They'll pull all the transactions you have in accounts payable that you're paying people by a social security number and not an LLC or an S Corp or something like that. And usually they'll say that these people are not 1099s, they are actual employees of the company. Now, interesting, if you go and Google factors for being a 1099, you will come up with this IRS 22-factor list. And by the way, on this list, you're required to meet every one of the factors, not just one, all 22. However, when the Department of Labor has been coming out and auditing these companies, these are the questions they've been asking. Does the company have a federal ID number? No, I'm paying by the social security number. All right, that's one negative right there. Does the company have a doing business as, or is it Susie Q and you pay Susie Q on her social security number? So if there's no doing business as, that's another check mark is saying, okay, this isn't a real business. They're really doing work for you. Does that person have a website advertising their business, flyers, brochures? Do they have other clients? So normally it's, no, they work for me full time. They work for me 40 hours a week. I pay them 40 or 45 hours a week, whatever. Those are signs that those individuals are not a 1099. So what companies do, you need to really redefine your classifications. Make sure you have like a temporary, occasional employee classification, so you can put employees on your payroll, make them W-2 employees. And if not, I tell you what, several of our clients have used this method and just moved them to a employer record, like a staffing entity. We use one, we're real close to one of those groups. So if you need information about that, let me know.